The Wrestling Life.
Hey everybody, it's The Wrestling Life. It's episode 275. It is August 13, 2021. I'm Ethan.
And I'm Liam.
Liam, we have so much to talk about this week.
And as always, so many things we can't talk about right here on the first and the only It's Ethan's Birthday podcast.
Oh, Lord.
Happy birthday, buddy.
The oldest person my age in the world. Thanks, pal. Let's moving on. WWE is on the road to SummerSlam. It's coming up next weekend. They continue to fire a bunch of people. They continue to present largely pretty boring television shows, except for when John Cena pops up here and there. And the booking is pretty atrocious. And yet somehow they have still sold like 41,000 tickets for SummerSlam, which, as of this recording, is still going to happen with 41,000 masked fans next weekend. I think that about covers it, right?
Yeah. I will be curious to see the enforcement of the mask wearing, but we'll see. A lot of stuff's going on. You got that, and you have, is it Pacquiao's fighting in Vegas that night too? So
yes,
just a mass of humanity.
Yeah. Well, the good news is that WWE had to promise, like the state athletic commissioner or whatever, that they would end the show in 3 hours so that people could go to the Pacquiao fight if they wanted to. And if you know one thing about WWE, it's that they always keep their word and hold up their end of contracts and bargains.
That's right. And they never test the limits of any of that.
That's right. So as we continue to build to Bobby Lashley and Goldberg at SummerSlam and John Cena and Roman Reigns at SummerSlam, those matches are pretty much, the build for those has been pretty good. And then, Cena and Goldberg are in and out here and there. They're on certain shows. They're not on other shows. Probably for the best that they're not on TV every week. And I think that for what they are, those matches are going to deliver at SummerSlam. But the more interesting thing to me going on is, WWE they have gutted NXT. Gutted is maybe a little strong, but very clearly the company has issued a directive internally where they're not going to hire any more, their words, not mine, quote unquote midgets, and no one over 30 years old anymore. So we're going back to the Johnny Ace era of developmental that produced practically no stars. And boy, is that exciting. And Adam Cole and Pete Dunne are coming up on free agency.
Yeah. So there's a lot of moving parts. I guess the most interesting, the releases themselves, once it was made clear, we kind of got the stories out of order, but it was like all these releases came, and then over the weekend that new directive sort of was revealed to us. And yeah, if that's your way of looking at things, and you look at who got cut, that all tracks. It was a lot of short people in their 30s and in some cases mid 40s. And so that's, I feel for those guys because they didn't, this was probably always an inevitability of WWE choosing to hoard talent. But it's disappointing. And I think it was Might have been Tyler Rust, or maybe it was one of the 205 guys that got cut. I thought he had a pretty level-headed response to it, which is like he didn't trash anybody. He didn't, he said, I understand it's a new directive. There's nothing I could have done. I wish I had known that this was going to be the new directive 6 months ago when I moved my family to Orlando, but oh well. And I was like, yeah, I mean, that sucks for people, people, you got kids and they had to change schools and all that stuff. Like that's a big deal, and it's not fun to be out of a job now, but those are the breaks. Boy, just every single person on the NXT UK roster has got to be just waiting for that text, right?
The only thing in their favor is that they're making like half the money that the regular NXT people are, right?
Right.
So maybe Nick Khan doesn't realize NXT UK exists.
It's gonna be another Paul's gonna get called into the office again when he finally makes that discovery.
Yeah. So obviously the implication to all of this is Triple H is fallen out of favor. Nick Khan is the real son, the real favorite son. Triple H has been shamed, and he lost his Wednesday night war with AEW, and the reason that he was never given any power on the main roster was so he wouldn't be put in a position to fail and then have to be demoted. And then, well, he got put in a wrestling war and he failed. And this is as close as they can come to demoting him. It would seem.
Yeah, I mean, he still has like a real title with the company, unlike whatever that made up thing they appointed Shane to be the other week.
Yeah, so be interesting to see what happens when Triple H does his media call next weekend.
Is somebody going to have the balls to ask him how his territory is doing?
I mean, no one's going to say those words. No, everyone wants to smooch him on those calls.
Well, I mean, it is the double-edged sword. We've talked about this before, but it's the access journalism thing where if you do ever ask anyone in that position an actual real question that they don't like, you're never getting called on again.
Yep, that's true. So Pete Dunne and Adam Cole, if you're coming up on free agency, and presumably because those are two of the most talented guys in the world, you would think WWE would want to keep them. And Cole met with Vince McMahon apparently before last week's SmackDown, and they tried to sell him on staying with the company and coming to the main roster. And meanwhile, while they're issuing a direction not to hire anybody over 30 or under 6 feet tall, which Adam Cole 0 for 2 on those fronts. He's a small guy who's on the wrong side of 30. I don't like his main roster chances, but it'll be interesting to see what happens with those two guys.
Yeah, I mean, well, first of all, I can't believe he's even considering staying when they fired his dad, Bob, the same night that they were meeting with him. I mean, they fire your father, you think that would be the end of it, but no, like I don't know. Like if I were him and he enjoys living in Florida and making good money and not having to worry about merch and stuff like that, yeah, I could see, and they give you a really good money offer, then take it. Now, of course, as we've seen, really good money offers are only worth so much unless you have something in your contract that says they can't cut you. So I don't know. Yeah, you could sign for, let's play best possible case scenario. We're going to pay Adam Cole $1 million a year to stay. I don't think he would get that much, but it's like, okay, but then in a year, if we're in another cost cutting mood, guess who we're going to look at? The short guy Vince doesn't like that's making a ton of money. That guy's getting cut first.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I would well, you don't know for sure. I think it comes down to I'm just gonna keep doing that Fred Armisen character from Saturday Night Live, where he starts a bunch of sentences and never finishes any of them. You see, what it really means to me is, and I think what it comes down to, and if I'm him, what I'm doing is, I look at Rey Mysterio as kind of the example. I was thinking about this the other day. I look at Rey Mysterio as the example of, there are guys who want to travel the world and they want to go to Japan for 3 weeks at a time, Mexico for 3 weeks at a time. If the UK gets back up and running again, do a shot over there once every 6 months or whatever. You could do big US indies on the weekends. You can probably come close to your WWE income if you hustle or if you don't mind traveling. But if you have a family, or if you don't want to live in airports and you have the opportunity to go somewhere like WWE and you can make the same money, and that's the most important thing to you, then makes sense. Like Rey Mysterio, he main evented All Out. All In, the first All In show. He was in the main event of that show. He worked some New Japan that year. He worked a little bit of Mexico that year when he was between WWE stints. And it's like, I think Ray just doesn't want to be in airports that much. And so he chose to go to WWE, even though it was inarguably the worst thing for his career, because he could make the same money and not have to hustle for it. You know what I mean? And I guess it depends what Pete Dunne and Adam Cole want out of life.
Yeah, I mean, that, I think to me almost it made more sense when if the choice was stay in NXT or go elsewhere. I would say that makes tons of sense because you film TV in the same building every week,
right,
that you can probably drive to.
Right.
Plus NXT guys don't seem to have, or at least Adam Cole doesn't have the Twitch ban. So like that would make sense to me. Now, if he's on the road just with the main roster instead, that's a little different, but it's still theoretically it's, you're on Friday to Monday or Saturday to Tuesday or whatever the current, or now I guess they don't do Tuesday anymore because SmackDown's live on Fridays. So yeah, I mean it's still less travel because they don't really do house shows. Even before the pandemic, that had kind of died down. So yeah, it's definitely way less travel. So yeah, I wouldn't blame the guy for staying. Also, just from like a logistical big time moment to debut on someone else's television show right now, obviously the obvious place to go if Adam Cole in particular were to leave would be AEW. Like there's a couple other guys that are rumored to be making their debuts right around this time, and if Adam Cole walks onto their show like in between CM Punk and Bryan Danielson debuting, Adam Cole is the least big star of those three and the least important, and would feel the least important. If he's in WWE for another year, another 2 years, whatever, and then he leaves and he goes elsewhere, he could make a pretty big splash coming in as a new guy when there aren't a bunch of other big returns or debuts coming,
Yeah, that's a good point. The top of the card over there is very crowded, and it's about to get more crowded. And yes, that's an excellent point. I think he would go. I think his debut would be after both of those guys, depending on, presuming he has the 30-day non-compete. But yeah, to your point.
Well, he wouldn't have a non-compete though, right? Because his deal would be up.
That's right. Yeah. So he could be, theoretically, he could be on their TV in like 12 days or whatever.
Right.
Interesting. Yeah. Strategically, I'm not sure about that. Pete Dunne would benefit greatly from going to Japan and working over there for whatever the contract term that they would the shortest contract term that they would allow would be 2 years, 3 years, whatever. Just go over there. They need junior heavyweight help in New Japan very badly right now. Pete Dunne would go over there, take the Marty Scurll role as kind of a base for the juniors. But with travel bans and stuff, like, not a lot of guys want to go to Japan right now.
Well, he could always return to the thriving indie scene that NXT UK helped cultivate.
Yeah, I saw you people on Twitter trying to correct you on that. The broader point is not true, even if the minutia of it is. Yes. There's no UK scene right now. WWE killed it. They went in and they signed all the talent that they wanted, and the speaking out movement killed the rest of the scene over there because it was just a bunch of perverts. So yeah. So Pete Dunne really can't go back to the UK and work because there's nowhere to work.
Well,
also, we're in a global pandemic.
Yeah, I was going to say, and I don't know if this has changed, but even getting like a work visa was very hard last year for certain guys.
Yeah.
Especially guys not in WWE.
Yep.
And I don't know if that's any easier than it is now. Obviously, like Pac or somebody is able to get in the country sometimes, it seems, but not all the time.
Yes.
So I don't know what the rules are for that. So if your only sponsor is the company you're working for and that relationship goes away, if you want to stay in the country, that becomes like its own headache, right? So there's a lot of logistical nightmares that come out of being somebody from another country trying to stay in the US after quitting your job or whatever. And that is only more complicated, I'm sure, by the pandemic.
Yeah. So a lot of moving parts, a lot of interesting things happening. AEW debuts Rampage this week. And as the prophets foretold, Kenny Omega defending the Impact World title against Christian Cage is the first match in the history of AEW Rampage, a week before CM Punk probably debuts on the show.
Yeah, just how we all drew it up.
Yeah. Wouldn't have guessed that. So they're building to their pay-per-view. They got Christian and Omega for the AEW title on their show. Again, we're like 3 weeks away from pay-per-view, and they have they have 3 matches announced. The second one is a women's casino battle royale, and the third one is Pac and Andrade El Idolo. So sure seems like they like waiting till the last minute to build their shows.
Like a month ago, we were, or at least I was, talking about like, wow, it seems like the show's like already kind of built up. Like seems pretty obvious where like all of the top guys are going to be at this pay-per-view.
Yes.
Because they were building to Cody and the other guy, and they were building to Kenny and Hangman, and it felt like we knew where most of the big time matches were going to go, and then they obviously chose a different direction with Hangman, and Cody and Black was on television, and now Cody's off TV for the foreseeable future. So we went from having like 5 or 6 matches seemingly locked in to having the 2 or 3.
Yeah, Hangman, I think, is taking some time off while he and his wife have a baby. So he's probably not going to be in for this cycle. And I assume maybe we're getting CM Punk and Darby Allin. I just putting 2 and 2 together.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then your tag titles, maybe still some version of the Young Bucks and Jurassic Express, depending on how that plays out on TV, building up to that show. Although they usually don't do rematches, so I wonder if they'll be doing something else. They kind of hinted at the Death Triangle guys going after Young Bucks, but and Britt Baker's defending the title on TV this week, so not sure if there will even be a women's title match on that show. But yes, it's to your point. A month ago, we were talking about how clear the short-term picture looked for them, and now here we are. It's back to trademark AEW Dynamite, which everyone seems to love except me.
There are things I like about it, but at the end of the show, I usually think that was all right, not wow, that was great. And everyone else in the world seems to go, that was great. They're really firing on all cylinders. So I'm wrong, I guess. I don't know. I guess, and I like, again, we've talked about this. There's a middle ground, theoretically at least, between the show on one channel where nothing ever happens and we see the same rematches over and over and over and over and over again, and the show where a million things happen every single week and it feels, and you get whiplash from everything happening so fast. This is not related to pay-per-view build, but I want to talk about Tony Schiavone's large adult son for a moment.
I don't want to. I'll wait till you're done. Go ahead.
That was some TNA Garrett Bischoff stuff, man. And I mean that in more than one way. Because yes, it's just a random person's son being inserted into an angle. But also, if you remember, this was at a show we were at, Bound for Glory 2011, when Hogan and Sting were wrestling. Just like randomly right before the match started, they did a backstage segment where they're like, by the way, the ref for this match is Eric Bischoff's son. And then the match happens, Sting wins, and Eric Bischoff hits his son with a chair. And it's supposed to be like a big deal. It's like, I didn't even know that. Like, maybe you could have told us it was his son a month ago, and then we would have cared when Eric Bischoff hit him with a chair. So I was thinking about that as randomly QT Marshall and Tony Schiavone are in the ring. And in the spring of 15 seconds, we are introduced to Tony Schiavone's son. We are told that he wants to be a professional wrestler. And then QT Marshall and his guys are going to beat him up. And then the Big Show comes out to save. In a vacuum, I don't care that the Big Show came out to start a feud with QT Marshall. But the problem I generally had with it was, all you have to do is bring Tony's son to a show 2 weeks ago and point him out sitting in the crowd. Or worst case scenario, at least have Tony mention, like, hey, we're going to be in last week. Have him go, hey, we're going to be in Pittsburgh next week. My son, who's training to be a pro wrestler, is going to be there. I'm very excited to spend some time with him and, introduce him to the crowd or something. And then you do that. At least do something. It's like in the span of 15 seconds, we got Tony, you have a son. Tony, he wants to be a wrestler. Tony, I'm going to beat him up, all in 10 seconds. And all of this was involving QT Marshall, which of course only makes it worse. All right, I'm done.
Yeah, I thought that was no good. There was a 15-minute stretch there of Dynamite this week where you had the Good Brothers wrestle, defending the Impact World Tag Team titles, immediately followed by a QT Marshall promo, followed by Tony Schiavone's large adult son being pulled out of the crowd, followed by a tease for the Big Show versus QT Marshall. There was a solid 15 minutes where that was the only thing on TNT. And I was like, this company was a mistake. And that's the kind of stuff that makes me wonder if, like, in 5 years, I'm going to be proven right and everybody's going to be like, this show actually sucked.
If this is your Brian Alvarez predicting Nitro is going to die in 1998 moment.
Well, I mean, I think people knew in 98 Nitro sucked, though. Like, maybe the masses didn't know, but the quote unquote smarks knew. It's like, okay, the smarks are the ones that like Dynamite. And
very much so.
And the masses, the masses don't watch wrestling anymore. So it's only the smarks,
I guess. I mean, this was the first week in a while they were under 1 million. So I don't, nothing makes sense when it comes to viewership patterns to me with wrestling shows for the most part. So I don't think we can read that much into it based on whatever last week's show was. I've already forgotten.
Well,
But
10%. So they lost 10% of their audience to the challenge, which is like the big show on cable right now.
right. Okay.
Okay.
I
They
mean,
lost 10% of their audience. That's WWE was down 2% this week, and everybody was like, oh, it's the worst Raw already since fans came back. Well, they haven't been setting the world on fire for many, many years now. It's like I still consider
true.
900,000 people watching a startup on TNT within 2 years of its debut. That's still pretty successful, I think.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I'm not. The wheels are not coming off, so to speak, just yet. But yeah, let's. But yeah, there are things like that where you just go, especially thinking about the amount of male talent that doesn't necessarily get used. And again, we've talked about this before. I'm a big believer that not everybody needs to be on the show every week, but you know who never needs to be on a show any week? QT Marshall. So give a little extra time to the one of the 6-man match or something else in its place, whatever you had to do. Just you do that stuff on AEW Dark all you want, but I don't need to see that on network television.
Well, on Dynamite this week, they were promoting the debut of Rampage on Friday. They were promoting next week's Dynamite. They were promoting next week's Rampage, and they were promoting the pay-per-view the first week of September. It's like they're promoting like 4 things at once, and it appears it's just going to be that way now because there's always going to be another show coming up on Friday to promote, and then you're plugging Wednesday show after that, and it's just like they are also now a content factory. So
would you then be a proponent of doing separate rosters for the 2 shows?
I would be a proponent of not doing the second show, but
that's what are you gonna do? Not take the money?
I don't know, man. Everybody always takes the money, and
yeah, and it never goes wrong.
we've got a decade of evidence of Raw being 3 hours. That is enough to tell you shouldn't just take the money, particularly when you're a billionaire. But whatever. It's capitalism. You can go on an anti-capitalism rant, but it's like
I mean that's the ever-turning wheel.
I don't think you need to split the rosters, but you could unofficially have one show have one focus or direction, or just do more trios matches or more women's matches or whatever on one of the shows. It's just like the Friday night at 10 p.m. show is going to default to being the B show. Whether nobody wants to come out and admit that their show is a B show right off the bat. John Cena and Randy Orton wrestled on the first couple of episodes of Main Event when that was a thing. And then you see where Main Event is now. It is going to default. Rampage will default to being a B show. It just by default, you can't promote everything equally. It doesn't work.
No, you're right. I agree. I think it's another hour, right? It's another, if you're a super fan and you can't get enough and you really want to see more, and again, hopefully they will use people that aren't on Dynamite, like Hikaru Shida or, people like that who just aren't around, that are just, I guess, wrestling on Dark every week. Like I hope those people do get to be on Rampage because they're on actual television in that case. But yeah, it's by, as you said, by default, it's not going to get the attention, and it probably shouldn't, because it's on at 10 o'clock at night on a Friday.
If there's a plus, I think it's going to be mostly matches, and it's going to be like the episode of Late Night Dynamite that they ran one time during the NBA playoffs last year or whatever. It's like it was 1 hour. It was 3 matches. All the matches got time. They didn't shoot a bunch of angles. I think that's where we're going to end up eventually. And that's fine.
Yeah, and I think theoretically, if you want to do an interview or two on the Wednesday show to be like, all right, that match will be on, it doesn't have to, it could be a 30-second thing with, Shivani or Dasha or one of those people backstage, and just, all right, if you want it, it's there. But
one of the people that interviews people, one of the people that talks into a microphone on that show that is not the horny cowboy.
Yeah, any of them, and not Marvez, preferably either. But
yes.
Anyway,
yeah. All right, so that's AEW, that's WWE. New Japan and AAA have big shows this weekend. New Japan running Los Angeles. Tanahashi and Lance Archer, Jay White and David Finlay. I don't think Finlay's staying around in New Japan, so I don't expect him to beat Jay White. On the one hand, it would be shocking to me to have Lance Archer beat Tanahashi. On the other hand, I'm not surprised ever by how often New Japan decides to beat Tanahashi anymore. So whatever. And then I know you enjoy watching Triple Mania every year.
Yeah, it's my one Lucha Libre excursion each year, is to watch Triple Mania. Big match being Psycho Clown versus Rey Scorpion in a mask versus hair match. Of course, my most anticipated match though is Puma King, Sam Adonis, and DMT Azul versus Chessman and Pagano, who I think were in hair match against each other last year, tried to kill each other, and their partner, the Murder Clown. That's
you get the Puma King and the Murder Clown in the same match.
Yeah, it's like the two greatest names in the history of professional wrestling are meeting.
You ever seen Puma King up close in his gimmick?
I don't think so.
I did at WrestleCon a couple of years ago. Like, you look at Puma King in pictures, and it's like, man, that is one of the coolest looking wrestlers I've ever seen. And then you see that guy like 10 feet away from you, and it's a grown man painting his face like a tiger, wearing a tiger suit, and it's really freaking creepy.
Like, oh, he's a furry. This is a sex thing, isn't it?
It gets weird. It gets real weird in person, man. That's all I'm saying. While we're on the weird sex thing, I want to apologize to Jeff Jarrett, who we posited on this show was probably the man responsible for all of the women on WWE Raw who end up barefoot all the time. Well, now good old Double J has been released, and Charlotte Flair was once again barefoot in the ring on Raw this week. So Jeff Jarrett, not a foot pervert. I apologize for slandering him that way. I think Bruce Pritchard is now number one suspect.
That would make sense if you a longtime listener will remember when we first started discussing the weird pervert segments that started popping up on Raw. You match that up when it was reported that Bruce was back in the fold, and correlation doesn't always equal causation, but sometimes it does.
Yeah, they brought in Jeff Jarrett, Abyss, and Bruce Pritchard are all around the same time. Well, Abyss and Bruce are still there, so there's a couple of suspects. I'm determined to find out who is the foot pervert in WWE. And if you're a woman, why don't you just wear tennis shoes to work there?
Yeah, or like at least like boots with like a chunky heel. Like you're kicking people with them, and that's like half of Charlotte's moves are big boots. I think she would wear a good sturdy boot.
That's true. Sorry, I cut you off when you're talking about Triple Mania. Is there anything else from that show you were looking forward to?
I mean, I'm tangentially interested in Kenny Omega wrestling Andrade El Idolo for the Mega Championship. But I think that's really fascinating because both those guys are in the same company in America and in Mexico. And I think they did one like short video promo for a Triple Mania press conference last month. That was shot backstage at a Dynamite. It was just like them both standing next to each other with Marvez or somebody, or maybe it was Alex Abramontes. I'm not sure, but and they did like a little promo for it, but they didn't. We're doing Impact World Title matches on our Dynamite show, but we're not really plugging the Triple Mania stuff too hard. I guess they're not as friendly, or they don't come through the forbidden doors often.
Yeah, I wonder how much Conan being with AEW now apparently has to do with that. I feel like Conan and AAA split up pretty often, and then always end up back together, and then split up and end up back together. But
yeah, that seems like it could be part of it. I mean, the Lucha Bros are also on the Triple Mania show in a multi-man tag that'll probably be great. So it's not like, guys are being forbidden, pun very much intended, from working anywhere. But yeah, I mean, that's legendary, right? CMLL very publicly ended their relationship with Ring of Honor this year because Ring of Honor was letting their Roosh and whoever work other Mexican promotions shows or on shows with guys from other Mexican promotions. So, and obviously CMLL and AAA are not the same, but that's kind of like a long-standing thing in Mexico is they don't like mixing talent. And if you're friendly with people they hate, that generally ends your relationship sooner rather than later.
Well, just as a bigger principle in life, I can get behind that.
Yeah, don't hang out with my enemies. That's rude.
Yeah. Anyway, we've talked about life. We've talked about AEW. We've talked about AAA. We've talked about WWE. Talked a lot about NXT. And we've talked about sex perverts. Is there anything else you'd like to talk about?
I mean, I was very disappointed that Karrion Kross beat Jeff Hardy on Raw this week. It's like, man, the old man couldn't even let me have this.
Definitely not the funniest possible outcome.
No. So that's a shame. Keith Lee posted a video today explaining what I think had been inferred already, but that his battle with COVID and how that led to other health complications and just I thought it was nice of him. Nobody was going to force him to do that. He said the implication that I read in his tweets was he wanted to do something official with WWE, and they said no. So he just did a YouTube video of him sitting in his house talking about it. But it's pretty sobering, and I'm glad he's healthy now. But that's pretty terrifying.
COVID's no joke, man. COVID's no joke.
Yep. Once again, we've ended our show. This is the new theme as we end it with talk of mortality or fear of the outside world. I
mean, to a certain extent, in that one or both of us is always here, it's always looming. that conversation might come up. But
yeah.
Now it's like, well, now I'm going to blame you though, because I'm like turning it over to you to end the show. And
right.
Like,
and I'm rambling.
Not rambling. You just start talking about death.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll put it in my court this week.
Which makes me wonder, is everything okay, pal?
Sure. Yeah, I have a few more. I noticed a few more gray hairs in the mirror this week, and it really bothered me. So, nobody gets out of it alive. Just protect yourself, all right?
Protect your neck. All right. Till next time, everybody. I'm Ethan.
And I'm Liam.
We'll be back soon with more stories from the wrestling life.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening. Don't forget to leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Now, here are this week's bonus features.
Hello, Ethan. It is your girl, the legit boss, Sasha Banks. And this is from your lovely wife, Anna, who wanted me to wish you a happy birthday. Happy birthday, Ethan. I hope it's a blessed, amazing, non-stressful, incredible day for you, as in every single day in your life. I hope it's amazing. I want to thank you so much for being a fan. Thank you for writing awesome articles only about good things, I hope, Ethan. And I want to thank you so much for loving Sasha Banks, and keep on requesting me versus Trish Stratus one day, because that is a dream match that I want to accomplish. So Ethan, I hope you have an amazing day. I'm going to make sure I tell Ryu that you said hello as well, and thank you for being a fan of his as well. Thank you for being part of the Sasha crew. Thank you for everything. All my love and gratitude towards you and your family. I hope you have a blessed and safe day, Ethan. Be well.
I try to keep on keeping on.